Israel was winning in Lebanon. Trump said, Netanyahu stop. Netanyahu stopped. Israel was winning in Syria. Trump said, Netanyahu stop. Netanyahu stopped. Israel was winning in Iran, the 12-day war. The Israeli fighter jets were operating freely over Iranian airspace. They were probably hours away from taking out the Ayatollahs, especially after you see how unstable the country is. But what did Trump do? Trump came into the war to stop the Israelis and save the Ayatollahs. Okay? And what about Qatar? When Israel made an operation against Hamas leaders being protected in Qatar, Trump had a giant tantrum, Olympic tantrum, and then he made Netanyahu apologize to the murderer of 1,200 Israelis down here in Gaza and the abductor of 250 Israelis, the emir of Qatar, right? Netanyahu was made to apologize to that guy by Trump. And then Trump said, I'm extending NATO-level protection to Qatar, which obviously means Israel, if you ever attack Qatar again, you're fighting with me. And Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, announced that now the US is going to be training the Qatari Air Force. And Trump stopped Israel in Gaza.
What if America is actually funding the very forces that want it destroyed? Meet Francisco Gil-White, a political anthropologist with a PhD in evolutionary anthropology who studies how entire populations are manipulated through the narrative. And here is what makes this different. He's a Noahide, not Jewish, not Israeli.
No reason why any Jew should not hold his head high. There is no record on earth like the record of the Jewish nation.
Yet, he believes the Torah may be the only thing standing between the West and collapse. Let's dive in.
It doesn't make sense for Jews to assume that they're going to live in peace. There's no such thing. There's no such thing for the Jewish people. Are you people in a madhouse? Did you forget the Shoah already? It's only been a generation. There's no such thing as living in peace. You have to win first. You have to save the Goyim. Then you will live in peace. If you haven't saved the Goyim yet, they will come and kill you. That's how it works.
We're here with Dr. Gil-White, PhD specialist on foreign affairs for Israel. Tell us maybe for a second the message that you would like to tell.
We have two problems right now. So one problem is that our modern Western civilization, which is Noahide civilization, it's the nations of the world, of the West, organizing themselves according to Jewish principles, right? So that's what's going on. But that's shifting. I think there are giant forces that are pushing us out of the Noahide moral consensus. And really bad ideas, evil ideas are becoming, are being made sort of culturally acceptable. So
do you think that's malicious? Do you think that was done?
I absolutely think it's malicious. This is actually an intergenerational process that has been going on for 25 centuries at least. And it has to do with the collision in the West of two great systems of thought, the Greco-Roman system of thought and law and politics, and the Hebrew system of law and politics. And those two systems are mutually exclusive. All right?
What does that mean?
Well, because the Jewish system of ethics and law and politics is a system that is based on making sure that you are protecting your fellow human beings. Whereas the Greco-Roman system of ethics, law, and politics
is barbarians killing each other to death.
It's the law of the strongest.
Right.
So whoever is strongest gets to make the rules and to oppress everybody else. That's all it is.
So is American democracy going on downward? Is
Well,
that what's happening?
I think all of the West is moving outside of the Noahide ethical consensus on which it was built. I think it's moving outside. And then the other big problem that we have is that the Jews seem to think in modern times that it is okay to have this sort of a microcosmic Judaism, you know, where you follow the mitzvot in a kind of a private way in your community, and that's basically what you are and what you do. No, that's not what Judaism is. Judaism is the movement that is supposed to save the entire world. And I think the problem that we're having today is that it is no longer part of Jewish identity to save the entire world. Because right now, if you have your own state, you have your own navy, you have your own army, right? Well, this would be the time to proudly say we are Jews and we're going to save the Goyim.
Let's do it, guys.
This is what we came here to do. That's right. What Judaism is for. The Torah is not just for the Jews, it's for everybody. If everybody knows the Torah, we will all live in peace. So obviously, the job of the Jews is to take the Torah to the rest of the world. We are in a unique historical moment because it's true that anti-Semitism has grown tremendously. There's no question that the Jewish state is under attack. We just suffered the biggest terrorist attack since the Holocaust. So obviously a lot of things don't look so positive. But on the other hand, there are a lot of us Westerners who are standing by Israel. It's just that the media doesn't talk about us. They want the impression to be made that everybody's turning against Israel. So that's part of what's happening in the media. But there are many, many Westerners who are on Israel's side, myself included. And it is a very interesting historical moment in times of the possibility for communication, okay? Because right now, the amount of capital that is controlled by the Jewish nation all over the world is actually considerable. And that capital can be invested in explaining to the Goyim the situation that we are all in the West. And if that communication effort happens, and the functioning of the system is explained to everybody, then I think we can turn this around.
The world is at risk with anti-Semitism because anti-Semitism is much deeper problem than hating a Jew. There's something much, and like...
Well, it's structural. So
okay.
Anti-Semitism is the lever that the totalitarians pull in order to enslave the Goyim. That's what anti-Semitism is. So
say that again?
So anti-Semitism is the lever that the totalitarians pull in order to enslave the Goyim.
Okay.
It's functional. So if you look at the major anti-Semitism...
Enslaves them by them getting like, okay, let's get the Jew.
No.
Economy is bad.
It enslaves... So when I say enslave, that's literal. That's not metaphorical. In other words, I'm talking about literal slaves, people who have a master, who can't leave the master's home. I'm talking about literal slaves, okay? So think about World War II.
Okay.
So in World War II, who were the biggest anti-Semites?
The Nazis.
The Nazis, right? So what did the Nazis do? People now seem to remember only that the Nazis killed a lot of Jews. What history books are they reading? The Nazis killed upwards of 64 million Goyim, a war that was caused by the anti-Semites. Okay. All of the deaths are the fault of the anti-Semites. It doesn't matter who was shooting, because the war was caused by the anti-Semites. All of those deaths are on them. And the number of deaths in World War II ascends to about 70 million. So 64 million of those were non-Jews. Okay? 64 million non-Jews died because of the anti-Semites. So you would think people would say to themselves, well, if the anti-Semites killed 64 million of us last time around, right? And in addition to that, hundreds of millions of us Goyim, were made slaves by the Nazis. You'd think they'd go, you know what, no more anti-Semitism. This was a really bad idea. It was a very big cost for us. We won't do this again.
What happened? So is this...
Well, obviously, the educational system is designed so that people will not reach that conclusion. Obviously, because it's not a difficult conclusion to reach, which means that the entire management of reality to which Westerners are subjected to has to be carefully designed so that they will be susceptible to anti-Semitism again, despite the lesson of World War II.
we had a lesson 9/11. You and I both remember 9/11. I remember I was driving on a back road to Beitar when it happened, and the entire world stood up. And I remember Bush getting up there and saying, Saddam, we're after you, we're going to get you. And it was kind of like naive. They really had no idea what was going on. It seemed like we were all in this bubble. After October 7th, there was an opposite reaction. Instead of going against Hamas, there was suddenly an ingathering of Hamas supporters.
Well, that only reinforces the point we were discussing. I mean, it obviously, if it is possible for people to see October 7th and then side with Hamas, that is prima facie evidence that they have grown up in an indoctrination system that has destroyed their minds. That's the evidence right there. The people who are running the West today are obviously not interested in that. They've been investing a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy supporting jihadism. That's what they've been doing. So obviously the people running our countries in the West have a completely different idea. And they're not going to be influenced by Jewish ethical values because that's what they're trying to destroy.
So is this an inherent flaw in democracy?
No. This is simply a problem that we've inherited from ancient times, because in ancient times, the same people were running society. So if you go back to the classical world in the West, these people were building stadiums so that they could watch a lion consume a human being. They were psychopaths, okay? Those were the people running the West. And those are still the same people running the West. It's just that now they have to pretend to be Democrats because there were democratic revolutions that forced constitutions on them and that changed the political grammar. So now we have elections, constitutions, parliaments, bills of rights, etc., because we fought for them from below, right? We established that. So now the same ruling elites that have always wanted to enslave us, they learn to speak a different language in the modern world so that they could stay in power. But they're not collaborating with the democratic experiment. They've been secretly trying to destroy it.
So you really feel there's a conspiracy. It is it's quite obvious. Once you say that there's a conspiracy, meaning that not a conspiracy like there's a bunch of people sitting there like, you know.
Why not? Why is that so crazy? Why is it so crazy to say that the most powerful people in the world
have an agenda?
They have an agenda. They make plans.
I'm sure
they make decisions about how to move the chess pieces. None of that is ridiculous. It's all obvious. Obviously, look, they even have famously public places where they meet. Like the World Economic Forum, like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, blah, blah, blah. They have institutions where they all get together. Why is it? Look, the bias against conspiracy theory is just a bugaboo. It's el coco, como le decimos en español. What do we call it? It's what do they say in English? The guy that's going to take the children if they misbehave. No, but in English they have the boogeyman. The boogeyman. That's what it is.
The boogeyman.
It's a boogeyman. Thank you. So it's just there's nothing strange about conspiracy theory. It makes perfect sense to do conspiracy theory. The people who are up in power are always corrupt. They're always conspiring against us.
So Trump sits with the Arabs and says, "You take Kuwait, we'll take Sudan."
They're always doing that kind of stuff.
So
the only reason that people have a bias against conspiracy theory is that the educational system, which is the linchpin of the system that manages our reality, in the universities, they're always telling people that conspiracy theory is a sin.
Right.
It's like the first commandment.
You're nuts.
You're
everything. There's order.
You're nuts.
Everybody's honest.
You need pills.
There's no fix in the game.
You're paranoid. How could you ever think that anybody in power was ever going to do an underhanded thing in secret? Right. You're crazy. Come on. This is indoctrination so that we won't think. So that the minute that we become suspicious of power, we will feel guilty. We will feel ashamed, like we're about to be expelled from our own polite society. You see, it's a trained reflex. But obviously, the people in power conspire, and you just have to see how they behave to understand that they're trying to destroy Western democratic civilization.
So do you think on January 8th, when Iran was going nuts with Trump balked? He should have gone in. He should have neutralized the government at that time. Do you think that Trump stopped the war right down the block over? You could walk in a half hour. You could be in Gaza from where we're standing right here.
Well, I mean, I think Trump.
And he pulled the plug too quickly. He said it made it all about.
But look, Trump did this on every front. So he stopped Israel in Lebanon. He stopped Israel in Syria.
That's right.
Israel was winning in Lebanon and in Syria. Could have liberated both countries. Could have created a democratic Syria allied with the Rojava Kurds in the north, who are now going to be destroyed on Trump's orders, and the Druze in the south.
Instead, it kicked it on to the next generation because it's just, you know.
But look at all
for
the
a politician, he's got to finish another 2-3 years.
No. Don't get distracted by Trump. This is U.S. policy. This is U.S. policy. It's not Trump.
U.S. policy
Trump,
of let's not look, as long as they're not making noise, we don't hear them.
It's U.S. policy for decades.
If they're not
look,
flying,
Ronald Reagan was sending billions of dollars in weapons to the Iranian Ayatollah.
Ronald Reagan was a good president, I think.
Ronald Reagan was sending billions of dollars in weapons to the Iranian Ayatollah.
I said the wrong thing.
In one ear, out the other.
I don't know.
The next thing you said after I said that was, I think Ronald Reagan was a good president. The Iranian Ayatollah wants to exterminate the Israeli Jews.
Well,
Ronald Reagan was arming him to the teeth, and you think he was a good president. We're going to be killed. We're going to be killed.
So you say that there are things happening that most people don't know about. I didn't know.
No, that's famous. Well, it should be famous. That was a public scandal in the 1980s. See,
I was a kid then.
Right, but look,
I've been involved.
But you remember? But you know what Watergate means?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Watergate was nothing.
Yeah.
Don't you see? This is how the management of reality works.
Well,
Watergate.
I remember
listen
when
to this.
Bush gave a bunch of money to Iran.
Listen to this.
Buckets, a whole train of cash. What was that?
Listen to this. Watergate was a burglary.
Yeah.
They sent a couple of guys
got some microfiles
to open a door and steal some files.
Right.
And that's the thing you know about. Iran-Contra was
I know.
the U.S. president sending billions of dollars to the worst enemy of the United States.
Just a
guy who says he wants to destroy the... No. Don't give me the reason why. It doesn't matter. That's not the right reason, but it doesn't matter. The commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces was sending billions of dollars to the international jihadi terrorist who had state-sponsored rituals to chant "Death to America, Great Satan."
But look, today in retrospect, in hindsight, is always 2020. But at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, before 9/11, most people did not have a clear impression of what jihad is. And jihad, even between Shia Muslim and Sunni Muslims,
you're wrong about this.
Jihad could be a spiritual movement within the soul. It doesn't have to be.
The Iranian Revolution made very clear what jihad is.
Because they're all Shia Muslim. It's the only country in the world
that's
Shia.
It doesn't matter if the Iranian Ayatollah is saying the meaning of jihad for me is the destruction of the United States of America.
So you got to be stupid to give him money.
No, nobody would be that stupid.
Right.
Obviously, that was not stupidity.
So
nobody is that
said
stupid.
Jihad means an inner movement of the soul of fixing.
No, nobody is that stupid. The president of the United States is not an ordinary individual. He is not an ordinary human being.
Right.
The president of the United States sits atop a diplomatic bureaucracy, an intelligence bureaucracy. He has the best information in the world. He knows exactly what Ayatollah Khomeini really is. So when he sent all of those weapons, he knew exactly what he was doing.
And it happened again recently with Iran.
Yes, it's been happening all the time. That's my point. It's not Donald Trump.
Well, I saw a political analyst was saying like this, that the reason why Trump doesn't want to go into Iran now is because they just signed a $54 billion deal with the UAE for oil and for munitions. Because if they go in there, then all the oil contracts go away, and they've been selling.
Well, you know how you know that can't be the right explanation? Iran-Contra. They've been supporting the Iranian jihadists from the beginning. Once you know Iran-Contra, if you manage not to forget that it happened, then you know what the right model of the world is. They're supporting jihadism.
So what you're saying is that essentially that America can't wrap their head around what jihadism means.
No, that's not what I'm saying. America doesn't exist, number one. I'm talking about the presidents. I'm talking about the people who really make the decisions for America. Those people are not confused. America's confused.
America doesn't.
Ordinary Americans are confused. We're talking about the confusions that are poisoning the minds of ordinary Americans. I'm talking about the power elite.
The power on the top.
Those people are not confused about anything. They're the ones creating the indoctrination system that confuses everybody else. But they understand the world. They have armies of people gathering information for them, all kinds of experts. And of course, they use those experts. They're not idiots. They're playing the game of world power. Why would you not listen to the guy who knows something about Afghanistan? Of course you do that. You want to take power in Afghanistan, right?
I'm reminded by Bush. After 9/11, he gets up there where he says, I'm going to go to the Middle East. I'm going to tell those to cut it out. Just stop the fighting. That was his message. I at the time, I thought the guy's an idiot. Like, do you not get what's going on?
No, his job is to look like an idiot.
No.
And boy, did they cast him well.
No, but
they cast that guy perfectly.
No, but what does that mean? Tell a jihadist to cut it out? He's ready to die.
No, but he's not. That was never the intention. That's just the show. So this is what they say. Look, the show began with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, his entire presidential campaign was, I'm going to beat the shit out of the Ayatollah. That was his entire presidential campaign. And the whole campaign, he made fun of Carter for being a coward, for not standing up to the Ayatollah. Reagan was going to be John Wayne. He was going to show
good and evil.
He was going to show the jihadists who was who, and the U.S. was supreme, and this and that. And the minute he became president, he started sending billions of dollars a year in weapons to the Ayatollah Khomeini.
Was he scared, or he just believes in them?
No. How can they be scared? These are the presidents of the United States. They're not scared of anybody.
So the deck is stacked.
They're promoting jihadism. Promoting jihadism is their actual policy. That's why they send billions of dollars in weapons to the jihadists, because it makes the jihadists powerful.
But in all fairness, they do send weapons to Israel, but Israel does
not as many. Not as many. I'm about to publish an article. Well, I do one column. How much do the enemies, the mortal enemies of Israel, get from the United States, and how much Israel gets?
This is what I was saying before.
Let me give you the
ammunitions. We got to produce ammunitions. You fight with them, and then we could sell ammunitions.
Well, I agree with you that Israel has to have total autonomy in weapons production. I agree with that. But more importantly, I think that what that weapons production buys you is the more important thing, which is independence from U.S. foreign policy. I mean, Israeli foreign policy should be decided in Israel, not in Washington.
I heard a study that they're not as dependent, that their GDP is only 8% supported through.
No. Israel has zero. Israel is a vassal state. Israel is not a true state. So this is obvious from the way the war was conducted. So Israel was winning in Lebanon. Trump said, Netanyahu, stop. Netanyahu stopped. Israel was winning in Syria. Trump said, Netanyahu, stop. Netanyahu stopped. Israel was winning in Iran, the 12-day war. The Israeli fighter jets were operating freely over Iranian airspace. They were probably hours away from taking out the Ayatollahs, especially after you see how unstable the country is, right? So wait, but let me finish. But what did Trump do? Trump came into the war to stop the Israelis and save the Ayatollahs, okay? And what about Qatar? When Israel made an operation against Hamas leaders being protected in Qatar, Trump had a giant tantrum, Olympic tantrum, and then he made Netanyahu apologize to the murderer of 1,200 Israelis down here in Gaza, and the abductor of 250 Israelis, the emir of Qatar, right? Netanyahu was made to apologize to that guy by Trump. And then Trump said, I'm extending NATO-level protection to Qatar, which obviously means Israel, if you ever attack Qatar again, you're fighting with me. And Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, announced that now the US is going to be training the Qatari Air Force. And Trump stopped Israel in Gaza.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, it's all about the hostage." Narrative was a lie. That was a lie. It was not about
but
that.
look at forget about that narrative. It's the pattern. There is no border of Israel in which Trump did not engineer the defeat of the IDF. He did it in every single front. So he is your enemy. And this is a pattern that is consistent across US presidents. That's why I went back to Reagan. I can fill it in if you want, but it's easier if people go to the articles and see the documentation. Every single president has been undermining the security of Israel. The one item that
So you say Israel's success is despite all these.
absolutely
Is that a consistent, not only narrative among the jihad and the people who infiltrate America, but it's the actual government and the leaders who are, for some unexplained reason, you say it probably is conspiracy. And I don't know any. There's no way of knowing that.
well,
other
look,
than just looking at what.
if the most powerful country in the world is your enemy, you should just assume that your government has been corrupted.
Yeah.
Why would you assume anything else? They have tremendous resources with which to corrupt your government. If they're your enemies, well, obviously that they did it already. And that would explain a lot, wouldn't it? It would explain why every single time the Israeli government does something important, it ends up affecting the security of the Jewish state negatively. I mean, that it seems like out of some comedy movie. How can it be possible that these people always undermine the security of the Jewish state? They managed to lose all of the wars they're winning. How did they do that?
It definitely is a very thought-provoking question. It definitely needs. I don't have an answer. I'll tell you. I agree that there's a lot of things that are happening currently with Iran, which makes no sense why they didn't go in on January 8th. With Gaza, why they decided to give it back when they know, and they knew all along that there's tunnels there.
Well, but we know why they did it. They did it because Donald Trump gave them an order. That's exactly what happened. So the question you have to ask yourself is not why they did it. We know why they did it. They did it because they're the servants of the US president. The question is, what is happening psychologically inside the Israeli citizenry that it is so difficult to notice this?
Well, I think Israelis love peace. We love to just believe that everything will be okay. But a lot of people don't think this way. But I'm saying, deep down, we were all sick with Corona here. We couldn't go outdoors. We all just wanted to get back to normal life. For the past 5 years, there's been almost no normal life. Since the war ended in Gaza a few months ago on Sukkot, and just 2 weeks ago when the last hostage body was exhumed. So everybody's so excited to get back to normal life. Happy ending, American movie, everything is good at the end. The European movies don't have happy endings.
Okay, so then the question, I guess, is larger. It's a question that has to do with Jewish education. Because you see, from the most obvious scientific point of view, the least risky prediction that a historian can make about the 21st century is that there's going to be a great mass killing of Jews.
Right.
Why? Because we had one the century before, and the century before that, and the centuries before that, century after century after century. Right? It happens every century. Right? So you would think, oh, well, the Jews must have understood after a few centuries that this happens every century. I mean, just like we know that the sun is going to come out tomorrow because it's come out every day of our lives way back until the day that we were born, right? It's the same kind of inference process. Why doesn't it happen with the Jewish people? Why are the Jewish people surprised when everybody comes to kill them again if it happens every century? And so I think the real question is about how is the educational system of the Jewish people structured so that it manages to raise a new generation of people who will be surprised when the very thing that happened to their grandparents and to their great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents happens to them.
Or they could start being, I think what your final conclusion, if I understand you correctly, is let's start promoting godliness in the world. Let's start promoting a message.
Well, no, I'm making a more superficial statement, if you will, which is that it doesn't make sense for Jews to assume that they're going to live in peace. Because you were talking about people want to get back to normal. There's no such thing. There's no such thing for the Jewish people. Are you people in a madhouse? Did you forget the Shoah already? It's only been a generation. There's no such thing as living in peace. You have to win first.
Yeah.
You have to win. You have to save the Goyim. Then you will live in peace. If you haven't saved the Goyim yet, they will come and kill you. That's how it works. We've seen it for centuries.
So, okay, that's an excellent message. Thank you so much. The message, I think, if I understand, you'll just summarize and tell me if I'm right. I'll give you the last blessing. The blessing
right.
to lead us out.
Okay.
So the message is, guys, that the Jewish people are special. And when we say we're
Amen.
special, it's not that we go on the little bus. What it means is that we have a mission, and this mission is blatantly obvious to every person in the world, but unfortunately sometimes to the Jew, it's less. He wants to try to fit in. He wants to be like in every other nation. He wants to be like, let's just be like, Mexico or America.
He wants to be humble about the Jews. No,
Yeah.
the Jews are a heroic nation.
So stand up, be proud to be Jewish, show your identity, and learn what it means to be a Jew. Look into history. A Jew is not just a victim. And that was the commercial for the Super Bowl where everybody was making fun of that the Jew was a victim. The Jew isn't a victim. The Jew is a 6 foot tall guy, and he's really strong, and the world looks up to him. And if he acts like a fool, then they're going to kick him. And they have good reason to kick him because he's not doing his job. So that's my opinion.
I like that. I think that there's no reason for any Jew not to hold his head high, because there is no record of any nation quite like the record of the Jewish nation. What can compare? What nation can boast that they saved an entire civilization? Because that is what the Jewish nation did with the West. When the Jewish nation came in contact with the Greco-Roman world, the Greco-Romans were completely lost. It was a world of total sin. Okay, these people thought, just as an example, that it made sense for your day of fun, like going to the movies, to go to a stadium to see how a human being was destroyed by an African beast. These people were completely nuts. And the Jews saved them. The West today, look, the West began with the worst societies on the planet Earth. The worst. And it ended up with the best. And that is an achievement of the Jewish nation. So there's no reason why any Jew should not hold his head high. There's no record on earth like the record of the Jewish nation. And what is endangering the world today, in my view, is that the Jews have forgotten their mission. We need them. We need the Jews to save us. And I think a lot of Goyim are ready to fight with and for the Jews, but we'd like for them to lead.
Francisco, Dr. White, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you more in Israel. Maybe we'll go visit in Yehuda v'Shamron. We'll be able to see that new settlement that's being built. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.